Welcome to Healing Minds, Stories of Resiliency and Recovery, a conversation held at the intersection of substance abuse, mental health, and everyday living. Your hosts, Mark Regala and Justin Wolf, bring both professional expertise and personal understanding to the table. So welcome to the conversation. Let's dive in.
Hi, everybody. My name is Justin Wolf. I'm joined by Mark Regala, my co-host here. And we are back for the 9th episode of Healing Minds, Stories of Resiliency and Recovery. And we have a great topic tonight, focusing on the connection between the food that we put into our body and our mental health and our recovery. And so, Mark, how are you doing this evening? And how are you feeling about this topic?
I'm doing good. I can't believe it's been 9 episodes already. That's kind of hard to believe. And I think that this topic is actually a really important topic that does not get enough focus or attention when we start talking about mental health and we start talking about recovery.
Right. And I agree full-heartedly, because it's like we've all heard that phrase, right? Like, you are what you eat. But how much time have we actually taken to actually really think about what that means for our mind, body, our spirit, our recovery, and the way that it actually really impacts us? It's like you say this like in passing where it's like, oh, you are what you eat. But really, when you think about that and the way in which we're treating our body, sometimes we put things into our body that really communicate like, I don't really care about the outcome of this. Or I'm not really invested so much in how this story plays out when I'm putting in this really unhealthy and just like immediately satisfying food. Because that's the part when we like to think and talk about nutrition and recovery, is that sometimes it's almost like in this silo. We don't give it the needed attention and really highlight just how important this truly is. Because when we talk about recovery, our nutrition and the fuel that we're putting into our body is ultimately connected to the way in which we attack the day and the way in which we're showing up. And so when we talk about like just even in the context of recovery here, the way we eat, and these foods and their different nutrients, I mean, it has a role in just even how consistent our mood is. We look at like levels of depression and anxiety, highly influenced by what we put into our body and our nutrients that we receive or that we're not receiving. So all these things go a long way. Also in the fact that depending upon what we're actually putting into our body and eating, it actually can feed into the very thing that we don't want, which is intense cravings for our drug of choice. And so that's where looking at building a healthy lifestyle focused and centered around nutrition and what it is that we're actually putting in our body goes a long way in supporting our recovery efforts. And so I just want to kind of pick your brain, Mark, because I know this is something that you're really passionate about and something that you've also really kind of dove in and really changed in your journey. And I just want to get what your thoughts are about the connection between diet, nutrition, and just mental health.
Well, and I've said this before, but I'm going to keep going back to it. So, part of my story is towards the end, I really legitimately lived my life like an oxymoron. I was doing drugs and drinking recklessly, but at the same time was on this quest of trying to figure out how do I get myself out of the hell that I got myself into. So I would watch videos on recovery. Some of it were speakers, and some of it was just general videos. And the one thing that I found in uniform was a lot about physical activity, which we discussed the last podcast, and diet. And what I did not know, and I learned this, on this quest for education, and I also learned this actually in treatment as well. The very last time I was in treatment, is there's a direct correlation between what you put in your body, good or bad, and those mood altering chemicals that are on our brain. Specifically the serotonin, the dopamine, oxytocin, and then the subsequent endorphin levels that we talked about in the last podcast. And I didn't realize that there was a direct correlation there. And when I started doing research and I started learning in treatment what to put in, what not to put in, I mean, literally, everything that I was doing was promoting poor mental health and addiction and alcoholism. And in recovery, everything that I'm focusing on putting in my body now, okay, is focusing on physical health and mental health, which is living that life of recovery like we've been talking about.
Right. When you say living that life of recovery, it really captures living that healthy lifestyle. Because I think a lot of people will kind of like talk about, just got to live this healthy lifestyle, but really not practice and like really embody what that means. Because when you're talking about going and pursuing recovery and making these significant changes in just our everyday approach to the way the world is and showing up with energy, it's going to take one hell of a foundation to kind of give you that support and that structure to withstand the stress of every day, just those mood imbalances that are going to kind of strike and come up when it's like, hey, today I'm just not really feeling it. And if I'm taking care of myself and eating well and giving myself and my body the fuel that it needs to withstand this, then I'm going to be a little bit more prepared to weather this storm when it shows up on my front door. Because that's one of the biggest challenges is that sometimes it's almost like a setup. I'm not eating well. I'm not really taking care of like, really meal planning, eating vegetables, or what you hear from I heard this from somebody the other day. It's like, yeah, I haven't had anything on my plate that's green or was grown in the ground over the past 3 years. Like, what? Like, no, true story. It's all been fried food. So when you're kind of getting after it and not really focused on taking care of your body, you're just focused on immediate satiation and what can I get in my system right now? And we know we're caught up in the thralls of like, whether it's our mental illness or active addiction, that sometimes there's periods of time where we go without eating. So our body is getting robbed of these vital nutrients and vitamins that it needs to persevere through the challenges of every day. That's why it's not surprising to see that a lot of people who really struggle, right? Like it's, nutrition and diet isn't at the top of the priority list. It's something that kind of tends to take a back seat, which leads to people being malnourished and being short in their vitamins that they need. Yeah. And so I think, Mark, you're kind of hitting on this earlier, that really the impact and the power of diet and the fuel and looking at those different, the different foods that we can consume and how they impact our neurotransmitters. Were there certain things that you really noticed and gained awareness that, hey, I got to really kind of bring more of this into my world if I'm going to really make sure I'm having a good mental health day and really taking care of myself here?
I mean, diet is important. The thing is what I found, and I don't know if this is like a psychology thing or what, but when you have bad habits and you're putting bad things in your body, like alcohol and drugs, it's like you're already putting the worst thing in your body. What do you care what type of food you put in you? So what if you're eating a cheeseburger and French fries, or stopping at McDonald's, or drinking a bunch of Diet Pepsis, or eating a half gallon of ice cream, what have you? But when you're putting in the time, working hard, as an example, in the gym, like we talked about before, I mean, if you're going to wake up in the morning and you're going to put that time in and you're going to work your butt off, it's a little easier to hold yourself accountable. Okay, I put all this work in. I woke up early. It's not going to be all for now. Let me eat healthier and let me put the right things in my body. And what I learned, and it's amazing to me, and I've always heard that your body is like a machine. I mean, you got to feed your body fuel. But when you put the right fuel in the body, not only does it help your body that particular fuel, not only does it help your body physically, but that same fuel also helps your body mentally as well. I mean, it goes all in hand. It's like a cog in a wheel. I mean, everything coordinates and communicates and works together in good ways and bad ways.
You're right. And that's what I was going to say. I'm like, Mark, I feel so bad and I feel so awful. You know what would be great? Just some really comforting, high fat, greasy food right now. Yep. Right. And I think that's a lot of times like those eating patterns that kind of get set into place where it's like, I'm just focused, just like when I'm using, right? I'm just looking at instant gratification or relief and what's going to kind of provide me that. So it's like, how do you not go with that when that's kind of been the way things have been going? What'd you find work?
Well, what did I find worked? That's a good question. Honestly, from a diet perspective, like as far as what I put in my body as far as eating or making the changes that I needed.
From a diet perspective, because I think
Okay.
that's the part that's a huge overhaul that you've
Yeah,
put into
well, what I
place, man.
found is that literally everything I was putting in my body reeked of depression.
Mm-hmm.
From the alcohol if I wasn't drinking alcohol, I was literally drinking 8 to 10 Diet Pepsis per day. And that aspartame and Diet Pepsi would just screw up your brain chemistry. It's been scientifically and medically proven. What I found is that obviously a high saturated fat diet
Mm-hmm.
affects your chemistry in a negative way, and obviously eating a high sugary diet affects your mental health and those feel good chemicals in a negative way. The crazy part about it is when you're dealing with alcohol and you're dealing with opiates, what do you crave? You crave sugar,
Mm-hmm.
candy, ice cream, things like that. So it's screwing up that chemistry even more, and it's getting you into a deeper and deeper depression. Where you want to use and use and use and try to feel that euphoric feeling of the alcohol or the opiates or what have you. Um, what I learned is that what to put in the body obviously cut some of that stuff out. So I mean I don't drink. I went years without drinking a Diet Pepsi. Maybe every now and then I'll have one here and there, but it's not 8 to 10 per day.
Right.
Pretty much 2 cups of black coffee at the most in the morning. Black, I mean, no sugar, no cream in there. And then for the most part, the rest of the day, I'm either drinking sugar-free Gatorade or I'm drinking water with that meal for the water flavoring, just because I don't necessarily like the flavor of water. And sometimes I'll put the water, the meal with the caffeine just
Yeah.
to give me a little kick because I like the caffeine. Then I miss the caffeine for the Diet Pepsi. I don't eat a lot of red meat. Um, don't eat a lot of processed foods. Um, Pretty much vegetables. Okay, a lot of chicken, a lot of poultry, and a lot of seafood like fish, like salmon and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay, high protein, lower carb, um, clean.
Mm-hmm.
Which is obviously going to help from the physical perspective, but it's also going to help from the mental perspective as well. I mean, it just as an example, and I learned this actually in treatment. That the tryptophan in
Mm-hmm.
chicken and turkey, okay, which is an amino acid that's found in chicken and turkey, is one of the best things that you can ingest that will actually help improve your serotonin levels in your brain.
Right.
When I learned that, I really focused on a lot of poultry, like a lot of chicken and so forth. And I know a lot of people equivalent tryptophan to Thanksgiving and, oh, I'm going to be tired. No, I'm going to be sleepy. The truth be told is we don't get tired from eating turkey. We get tired from eating the stuffing and the mashed potatoes and everything else because there's actually more tryptophan in 6 ounces of chicken than there is in turkey. And nobody complains about being tired after eating a chicken breast, you know. But I mean, just stuff like that. I mean, cognitive changes. I mean, I was told I joined a gym early on, a CrossFit gym, and the gentleman that ran the CrossFit gym, he told me something pretty profound. He goes, "Hey, if it doesn't have a mother and it doesn't come from the ground, don't eat it." That's
Yeah.
simple rule of thumb. Doesn't have a mother, doesn't come from the ground, don't eat it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm going to talk to my Oreos later tonight and find out where they came from and who's their
Exactly.
grandfather here. So, um, yeah, no, fair, and I think that's good advice, especially when you're kind of talking about just having to really, in a sense, like flip whatever the diet was ahead of time upside down. Like
Yeah.
when you're talking about really kind of being caught up in the struggle, and you said it's reeking of depression. I mean, that's the challenge, right? Is finding the energy, the time, the motivation to kind of go out and meal prep. Like that just
Yeah.
sounds like it's over before it even begins.
And you have to, yeah, and you have to understand you're talking to a dude here that literally, specifically when the Blackhawks are making their Stanley Cup runs, I would do the check-ins on Facebook, and I would get, a crave case at White Castle to celebrate a Blackhawks win.
Mm-hmm.
30 cheeseburgers. Split them up my son 15 and 15 at
Mm-hmm.
11 o'clock at night with the sack of onion rings.
Yeah.
Not the healthiest thing to put in your body, but you also were drinking, watching the games at the same time too. Which again, not the healthiest thing you're putting in your body. I can't remember when I ate a White Castle last time. I mean, I can't. I mean, fast food, I mean, it's here and there, but I mean, I can't say it's non-existent, but I mean, you're talking to a guy again that literally every single day when I was on the run in the insurance business would be living a life of fast food.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the part where it's like this relationship with food and these quick go to,
Yeah.
I just need a quick fix. I want something that's going to take the least amount of effort, energy, planning, or prep to kind of go with. And that's exactly where, hey, I'm eating out of my car again because, like, I don't care. I'm not even tasting it. I'm just inhaling this.
Yeah.
And I mean, really, what's that saying about like the way in which we're valuing ourselves? Especially if we kind of go back to really saying, hey, like your body's a temple. What you put in it, like, really matters. Treat your body like you care about it. Like you
Yeah.
are really invested in this outcome of your own personal story. And it's pretty much saying, hey, you know what? That's a tomorrow problem. And I think a lot of times is what we do when we kind of get in a bad spot or we're not feeling our best, is just saying, you know what, that just takes too much work. I'll deal with this another day.
Yeah, and you made that comment earlier about it being like comfort food or soothing food. I mean, you can almost use the same terminology. I mean, let's just call it for what it is. It's almost like a form of self-medication.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just like putting alcohol and drugs in your body because you're putting that to feel better about yourself because you got these underlying issues that you haven't worked on.
Right.
The same thing can be said about food. I mean, that's why there's food addictions out there.
Exactly.
So I mean, it's all encompassing. I do think that once you work on those underlying issues and understand what's going on inside,
Mm-hmm.
and learn to cope in healthy ways, I do think that the urges to drink or do drugs or to crave that fast food or that Diet Pepsi subside, or I
Yeah.
can't say go away, but subside substantially, and
Yeah.
it's easier to make those changes then and start eating clean. And, meal prep. Yes, I mean, there's people out there that meal prep, and I've done that too. But honestly, you can eat clean and not necessarily meal prep. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
literally, I mean, I was the king for a couple of years straight of buying the minute rice, the 1 cup minute rice we put
Yeah.
in the microwave at work, open up a can of green beans, get a package of tuna, a package of salmon, or even a package of, the chicken. Okay. Mix it all together, throw a little hot sauce on there, and there you go. I mean,
Yeah.
literally a 5 minute lunch that's actually eating a lot healthier than what I ate before. And then do I snack during the day? Yeah, I mean, I snack during the day, but a lot of it's nuts,
Right.
sources of protein, oils, um, almonds, pistachios. Pistachios are a great
Yeah.
natural source of melatonin. So again, coming out of addiction and dealing with underlying mental health issues, certainly a lot of sleepless nights, pretty much dealt with
Yeah.
insomnia, going through withdrawals and acute withdrawal syndrome and things like that. But, instead of taking melatonin supplements, I mean, I got in the habit of eating pistachios at nighttime. That would be my snack at nighttime post dinner, not a bag of potato
Yeah.
chips. And honestly, and maybe it's psychosomatic, I don't know, but I mean, I definitely to this day still eat,
Yeah.
nuts and pistachios in the evening time, and I mean, I sleep a lot better. I sleep a lot sound. I able to get uninterrupted sleep, and
Whew.
something that I couldn't do before. That's for sure.
And that is something that they do not include in those pistachio commercials. So that
They
is
don't.
good to know.
They don't, but you
But
can Google it.
yeah. Hey, man. And as you're sharing like what you would eat at lunch, I'm just sitting here like, oh, this sounds like, hey, that's not my style. And like that just speaks to what a huge commitment you made to yourself to
Yeah.
kind of turn it over and saying, hey, you know what? This might not be the most glamorous meal, but it's a way that I'm going to make sure that I'm eating healthy and
Yep.
I'm not putting things in my body that are going to kind of pull me back into what I'm trying to go away from.
Yeah. I
Because
mean,
think
there's
about just
frozen.
even like the planning going into work with that, knowing you got all your stuff with you so that you can make sure that you have enough there to kind of feed it and making sure you got your hot sauce so you could actually,
Sure.
in my head, I'm like, get it down. Like that's huge. And that's huge because it's, when you're kind of looking at being caught up in the struggle of it all, it's like, meal prepping isn't really a thing because it's like, hey, how the hell am I going to follow a recipe? And how, maybe not in my right mind,
Well,
am I going to actually use these kitchen appliances appropriately?
you're talking to a dude that was married 25 years, went through a divorce. I mean, my idea of cooking was flipping a friggin' steak or a burger on a grill.
Yeah.
And the wife and my 3 daughters, I was fortunate enough to have 3 daughters
Yeah.
handle the rest. So, in this world that I live in now, I cook. I mean, I've learned how to make,
Mhm.
salmon, whitefish, scallops, different shrimp recipes, pasta recipes, a lot of chicken recipes, and so forth.
Mhm.
Um, like I said, I mean, I was a big red meat eater. I don't eat a lot of red meat. I mean, of course, I enjoy a steak every now and then, but it's mostly, like I said, poultry and seafood with vegetables and, maybe a cup of rice or,
Right.
maybe a baked potato here and there or what have you. Certainly not a lot of dessert. I mean, dessert's non-existent unless it's a special occasion like a nephew's birthday or something like that. But it's just something to get used to. We've talked about this before. I
Yeah.
mean, it takes 22 days of doing something repetitively for it to become a habit. It takes 100 days to become a
Mhm.
lifestyle. And, if you would have talked to me several years ago, I would have laughed in your face about this. But now it's like, it's so routine that I don't even think about it. And then, again, I do have group texts from buddies of mine that kind of join like this group, and we check in at the gym, and we do, take pictures of our meals and so forth
Right.
and share ideas of meals. Um, I mean, again, if you would have told me that when I was in active addiction, I would have laughed in your face. But I do hear comments from people because it's a pretty large group on this group text. Boy, you're so
Mhm.
disciplined. How do you do it? I don't even think about it anymore. It's just my routine. But it's worked, and it's worked very successfully to the point where I feel sound mentally. Um, I'm obviously in recovery on the addiction and alcohol side, and really my body has more quite a bit on the physical side as well, because a lot of it is higher protein, lower carb. You're building muscle, cutting fat. Especially with the work you're putting in the gym, and that all goes hand in hand as well.
Right. And that's got to feel good to kind of see just like the shift and the change in your body from what you're putting into it to the work you're putting in the gym to seeing that, hey, like I know what it takes to kind of like rebuild and repair some of this damage that was
Yeah,
done.
and
Because a
and
lot of times it's a kind of flipping it from like I'm not really putting too much thought into what I'm doing and the impact it's having on my body to now thinking, hey, how do I kind of put these building blocks inside of me so I can start repairing
yeah.
and building this back up.
I think when we just talked about this in the support group that we just came out of, you have so much shame and guilt in early recovery. I mean,
Mhm.
you do have a hard time looking at the person in the mirror. So I do think a lot of people early on have an attraction to physical fitness because it's the physical changes in their body that make them start to feel better about themselves. But when you start getting your diet straightened out, along with being active in the gym, okay, and putting the work in, you start seeing those changes a hell of a lot quicker, okay?
Mhm.
Which mentally makes you feel good about yourself when you look at yourself in the mirror when you see those physical changes in your body. But the other thing too is not only does it do you feel good mentally about yourself, but because that chemistry is in check, it makes it easier for you to feel good about yourself as well. You're able to let
Mhm.
go of some of that shame and guilt that you might have felt early on when your brain was trying to regulate the serotonin levels and the dopamine levels and all that stuff.
No, and I think you bring up a huge point there because, like, in my own mind, as you're talking about that, I'm just kind of flashing back to where I was after my car accident. I'm back, and I remember I'm like everything in my world felt so out of control. Like
Yeah.
I couldn't stop anything from spinning, let alone like my own mind from racing. But the one thing that I realized pretty early on that I could be in control of was the fact that I could put my earbuds in, I could go to the gym, and I could work out, and I could kind of be in my own solace there and not have to worry about interacting with other people because in that moment I was like I just feel so awful about who I am because
Right.
of what just occurred and what kind of just like blew up in my face that after the gym I could come home and then I'd still be in control, like all right, so what am I eating, what am I going to kind of be putting into place? And I think that was like a fine line that I found personally where I'm like I'm really starting to take this obsession over here. Now my obsession
Yeah.
is becoming with food.
But again, by you putting that time in the gym, I think it makes it easier for you to hold yourself accountable to put the right things in your body. If you didn't put that work in the gym, you're like, ah, screw it. I mean, that's how
Right.
I would be, and I talk to a lot of
Yeah.
people, like a lot of friends, and that's how they are too. I mean, the fact that you're putting in that time and you're putting in that effort and you're showing up every day, it's like you don't want to put all that work in for nothing. So you might as well put the right fuel in your body to try to build the muscle and try to look better physically. But at the same time, by doing that and putting the right foods in your body, that's going to help you look better physically. In a roundabout way, you're correcting that chemistry in your brain. And that's going to help you with depressive thoughts. That's going to help you with anxious thoughts. It's going to help you navigate through the
Mhm.
challenges of life in a much healthier way than feeling depressed, feeling anxious, and then going down the path of alcohol or drugs.
Right. I mean, those are quick fixes. It's just instant gratification. It's going to light up my brain similarly, blood sugar spike, and now I've got a very similar feeling. It's kind of really set me up in a not so great light here. And I think when I kind of look back and I'm kind of thinking about like the environments and communities that you and I kind of like recovered in, it's like it's a very fortunate environment that we were in, because not every community that's out there has access to such, you know, robust like food options. And really, that's one of the biggest challenges for a lot of people is that, hey, I'm recovering in a community that's been ravaged by substance use and addiction and mental illness, that there aren't a lot of really healthy food options that are affordable for me to really dive in and really start repairing some of this damage that's been done. So
Yeah.
you're looking at, right? I mean, you look at the way the world is now, right? You look at malnourished, like individuals who are malnourished. I don't have money to support and buy this food
Yeah.
that's healthy. So I spend my couple bucks and I buy this food that's not the most nutritious, but it's going to fill my belly.
Yeah. And that's a whole other topic there. You start talking about socioeconomics and you start talking about some of these economically distressed neighborhoods
Mm-hmm.
and the mental health issues and the addiction and alcohol issues in some of those communities. And it's almost like what came first, the chicken or the egg?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because
I mean,
you do
especially when you
eat
look at
because
it.
you have to eat,
Yep.
and if I mean, if it comes down to putting the wrong food in your body or not eating, you're going
Mhm.
to eat, and then by subsequently putting the food in your body that you can only afford, even if it's going to affect your chemistry negatively, brain chemistry
Mhm.
negatively. I mean, it really opens up Pandora's box. And I think, and I'm just going off on a little bit of a tangent here, you start looking at the economics right now and you start looking at what's going on out there with inflation and things like that, and you start
Mhm.
looking at the subsequent mental health crisis and the addiction crisis and the alcohol crisis that we're seeing to go along with it. Don't think that some of this is not coming into play,
Right.
because I can almost guarantee you some of it's coming into play because we've seen it in some of the neighborhoods, specifically on the south side of Chicago, that are
Right.
economically distressed.
Right. I mean, you look at unemployment rates
Correct.
and housing issues, because a lot of times it's a huge thing early in recovery trying to figure out, or even during after use, is like, where am I staying? And you have
Yeah.
this scramble going on to try and find, like, hey, where's this roof over my head coming from? And it's like the survival kicks in. So at that point, you talk about like anxiety, depression. These rates are astronomical, and
Yeah.
they're much higher in these areas where we're focused on really like those basic needs of survival to kind of get through that. Hey, like malnourished and like vitamins and minerals and all these great things that food can provide aren't really there early on in recovery, which becomes another barrier and another stressor for people having to figure out, how do I manage this now while I try to enter this world of recovery here?
Yeah. No, you're 100% correct. As you're saying that, talking about where you're going to lay down your head and where you're going to sleep at. Trust me, I've been down that path.
Yeah.
I mean, I've slept in my car, I've slept on many couches, temporary residence here and there. Um, I mean, I've talked to people that literally the only reason why they go to the gym
Mhm.
is because they need a place to shower because they're sleeping in their cars at
Right.
night. It's the only reason why they need a place to
Mhm.
shower and shave. That's why they go to the gym. Or, you know, if it's really, really cold, okay, they got to, some of these people got their 24-hour gym memberships at
Yeah.
$30 a month. They can go in there and actually warm up or go sit, in the massage room and lock yourself in there for a couple hours, in the middle of the night to try to get away from the freezing cold in the car and stuff like that. It's honestly,
Yeah.
it's more prevalent than you think.
Oh, I mean, I remember when I was down in Arizona, seeing individuals kind of coming in off the street, but like they had the gym membership because that gym was open 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And so that
Yep.
gave them the solace from the heat, a place to kind of just, be and where they were safe, not having to worry about these other stressors
Yep.
of just, what's going to happen on the outside. I don't know. That's unpredictable. I can't predict what other people are going to do.
Mhm.
And all this, I mean, really just highlights in my mind. It's like, you have these, like you said, the socioeconomic, these disparities that are within our country that
Yeah.
people have to navigate and learn how to manage and find support to kind of weather these storms that are coming their way. And at the same time, figure out like, hey, we need food to survive. I'm not going to eat for pleasure. How do I eat to survive?
Yeah.
That's going to help repair me in the same process. Like that's a lot for one individual to kind of have to weather on their shoulder. And that's where, like you were talking earlier, that I'm just kind of thinking in my own head as we're kind of going through this and discussing this, is just like the power of community and saying this community, like you talked about your buddies and sharing the photos and
Yeah.
really how it's kind of evolved over time into this really, hey, let's kind of stay on the same path that we're walking together, because this path, you know, is really bringing us more of what we want in our world and really making life really worth living and getting out there. And this foundation that is providing us is coming from us banding together to really support each other and work on this. And I think that's one of those key components that goes such a long way in anything that we do as people, because like we're people, we're a community species. That's just who we are. We need other people to survive.
Yeah.
And the only reason we're a person is because there's another person really validating and affirming that for us. So we really need other
Yeah.
people that are going to help support and really in those moments where we feel stuck or we don't know what to do, to kind of offer us and extend that hand at a moment that we would extend to another person to help support us get through those
Yeah.
challenging times.
I mean, that whole idea I gave you of the minute rice with the little one cup,
Yeah.
okay, the can of green beans, the package or two packages of salmon. I mean, you 2 packages of salmon, you can get almost 30 to 40 grams of protein. Um, don't think I came up with that myself. That was actually
I
shared
thought it
with
was your
me.
beautiful recipe, man.
Nope, that was actually shared with me by somebody that I helped get off of fentanyl.
Hmm.
He was battling for a while, but he's an entertainer. So even though he was battling on the fentanyl side,
Yeah.
his body was actually still fairly in good shape. And this dude had like an 8 pack of abs, and he's like, "Well, what can I do to thank you?" I'm like, "You don't have to thank me, but if you want to share some ideas with me, I want to know how I get abs like that."
Right.
And that's what he did. He shared his diet with me. I don't have an 8 pack of abs, but I'm starting to see my abs for the first time in almost 50 years. So it obviously works. But I did that because I wanted to more physically. But then
Yeah.
once I started doing the education and learning about how the brain chemistry responds to what you put in your body, again, that's where I learned. Well, geez, I'm doing this on the physical side, but not only does it help the physical side, but it also helps the mental side as well. And I'll go
Mhm.
back to okay, a year ago this month, okay, when I was dealing with the staph infection and I
Yeah.
had to get cut open, and they had to remove the abscess and I had this hole in my arm and I had a hose coming out of my arm and I had to go to the wound clinic and they had to pack it and repack it and I had to go for IV antibiotic treatments and I mean they were talking about, the tissue growing back, is it gonna grow back? Am I gonna have to get skin grafts, all that stuff?
Yeah.
And they handed me the diet that they wanted me to follow that promotes, tissue growth, to try to prevent as much cosmetic surgery as to basically have as little cosmetic surgery as possible. And I
Yeah.
literally looked at the diet that they gave me, and I like literally like almost I practically laughed out loud because like every single thing that was on that diet is stuff that I'm doing on a daily basis already. So like literally, I went from them talking about skin grafts and that to like literally this hole literally closed up. The skin grew on top of it. I didn't have to have any
Mhm.
cosmetic surgery or anything like that. And that was an experience for me, but it really opened up my eyes again. How what you put in your body, how some of that stuff I was putting in my body to help with the mental health side, but it would
Right.
help with the body physically, and vice versa. You
Yeah.
know,
And I think that's one of the most profound impacts is that what we actually put in our body can actually alleviate some of that stress and help us manage anxiety, those periods of depression that may come up.
you want to talk about stress, anxiety, and depression? Go through that because at that particular time, my number one coping mechanism was going to the gym,
Right.
and the gym was taken away. Now you got this hole in your arm, so even when you get out of the hospital, you really can't be as active. When you're an opiate addict and you're in tremendous pain, and you can't take a pain pill. So you got
Right.
the stress, you got the depression, you got the pain that you're going through. I mean, it was definitely a pivotal point in my sobriety and my recovery. But at the same time, I mean, I
Mhm.
went through that whole process with Tylenol 500s. Never, even though the
Yeah.
doctor wanted to give me pain medicine, I refused all pain medicine. Like I said, I ate what they told me to eat because it was stuff that I was eating already. That was a corrective action I put in place in early recovery when I started getting back into the gym. I mean, it was a process. I mean, I didn't get medically cleared to 4 months later. So it was one third of my year last year. But I can
Right.
honestly say this: I finished the year probably in the best shape of my life. And I was so depressed because all the work I put in the previous year, I was coming into 2023. This is going to be my best year ever. I'm starting a new job. I'm in the best shape of my life. And then boom, you have that. That's like all those thoughts just come racing in your head again. Oh, why
Right.
me? All this, why is this happening to me and all that stuff. But again, you come out on the other side and it's like, that was a test.
Mhm.
And I passed the test. I did not have to take a pain pill because my biggest fear in recovery was having a surgery and being reintroduced to pain medicine, some form of pain medicine. I was able to go through that without it. And then go through the challenges of 4 months being not inactive in the gym because I really didn't listen to doctor's orders. I started doing like light weightlifting a couple months into it, but I mean, I didn't want to go backwards either. But
Don't worry.
I
We'll make
start
sure they're not listening, Mark. We'll be fine.
well, even if they are, they know this. I already told them that. But I started getting more active sooner than I thought. But I mean, I
Yeah.
wasn't like heavy weightlifting until I got cleared. And then for me to hit it hard the last 6 months of the year and finish the year where I was at. If you would have asked me in the middle of dealing with that, how I would finish the year, I probably would have never have guessed how I finished the year. I probably would have thought that it would have been different. But you work hard, you're disciplined, you stay regimented, you stay focused. Um, Even if something's taken away from you, like the gym, okay, or at least the program that you were doing in the gym, you still got other things you're doing on the mental health and recovery side. And one of them was diet. My diet never strayed during that entire process, especially when they handed me that piece of paper. And all in all, it all
Yeah.
worked out at the end.
Yeah. And I think that just really highlights like your commitment to these areas of your life that, hey, we're kind of caught up in the struggle of that everyday addiction. It's like these are areas that got no attention. You're talking about like the mental health
Yeah.
as well as like your nutritional intake. And these are the two areas that became kind of pillars for you and for so many in recovery, where it's like, hey, you know what? I'm used to kind of checking out here and not really kind of investing my own energy or time into here. I'm actually going to kind of do the opposite of what I've been doing. I'm actually going to shine. I'm going to shine a big light here, and I'm going to really invest and divulge my energy, my time, and my focus to really invest here and really take care of myself in a
Right.
way that's really showing like I really want the best for myself here. And a lot of times like that's a long journey to get to that place to actually feel like, hey, I deserve this. I deserve to like treat myself well here, as opposed to saying like I've done things in the past historically that I don't deserve any of this. And so that's where I think even when you're kind of sharing your challenge there, it's like you set yourself up well to navigate that and to handle that in the most effective way that you could by all the work you had done building up to that point. And I think
Yeah.
that's where one of those like key pillars in recovery we talk about is like, hey, we're being proactive versus reactive,
Yeah.
not the I'll deal with it when it happens. Cause like that mantra never plays out well. It's like, oh, I'm going to go have this difficult conversation with somebody that I really don't enjoy talking to. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see how this goes. Like that conversation's not going well. We all know how that plays out. Just like,
Correct.
oh, I'm going to wait till it's dinner time to figure out dinner. Like, what do you want to do for dinner tonight? I don't know. What do you want to do? Like, it's a constant battle or conversation, not battle, conversation in my house where it's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I'm tired. Let's just order something, like, let's order sushi or something. You're just trying to make the best of like a worst outcome.
I mean, I would like to say order sushi. Most of the time it's friggin' ordering pizza or friggin' stopping and trying to get something that's not that healthy.
And so that's where my mind kicks in, like, hey, how can I kind of mitigate the damage that's about to be done here?
Yeah, I agree.
But no, Mark, go ahead. No, I was going to say, I think we've had a great conversation tonight about really just giving nutrition and the power of like what it is that we eat and how that's connected to our mood, our energy, the vigor at which we attack recovery, and how it's not something that's just kind of over here off to the side. It's actually one of those foundational building blocks that really helps position us in a place to manage just the everyday stress of being a person in a much more effective way.
Yeah, and one other thing, it does not always, I mean, first of all, I don't mind eating chicken, salmon, veggies, rice, potatoes. I mean, maybe I'm fortunate. I mean, I like everything, but it doesn't, but where I'm going with this is, when you start talking about endorphin and oxytocin, guess what? For the chocolate lovers out there, chocolate in moderation, moderation's the key word there, actually helps you with your oxytocin and endorphin levels.
But what if I get a year's supply with a Portillo's chocolate cake?
That's not going to help you with your levels. That might help you with your oxytocin, and it might help you with your endorphins temporarily, but it's going to cause a crash on the serotonin side big time.
All right, I won't stop there on the way home. So,
just like if I stop at White Castle on the way home.
Yeah.
Because Lord knows I got a taste for them now that I brought them up earlier. I mean, I was the king of them.
Yeah, no, and I don't know anybody who's gone and said, "Hey, I feel so much better after having that crave case." Like, that was a great choice. I'm glad I made that call. Like,
no. Certainly not the next morning. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah. Oh.
But that goes hand in hand with the night of drinking too. Certainly, you don't feel good the next morning after a night of drinking either. So,
yeah, you're not really making your best nutritional choices in those moments.
Not at all. Not at all.
No. So no, I think really kind of you've highlighted, man, just the power of really giving greater attention to that nutritional aspect of recovery here, and just how that can really propel and fuel an individual's recovery and their body here. And so, Mark, appreciate you joining and kind of being a part of this every 15th and the 30th of the month. And, really happy to kind of continue to keep doing this. And Mark and I are going to continue to kind of talk about today's topics and pressing issues that are really impacting individuals who are really fighting the day in and day out battle when we're talking about really recovery and what comes with it. So Mark and I are open to comments and suggestions. So if there's certain topics, certain issues that you would really like to see the two of us tackle in one of our podcasts, we are more than happy to do so. And feel free to go to our website at namidupage.org/podcast. Again, namidupage.org/podcast to connect with us there. And so again, Mark, as always, it is a pleasure. And until next time, sir, you have a great evening. And thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night and a good afternoon and a good couple weeks. Take care.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us today on Healing Minds, Stories of Resiliency and Recovery. If you're on the journey to find guidance and insights, subscribe now wherever you find your podcasts. Healing Minds, Stories of Resiliency and Recovery is an educational resource, not a substitute for medical or therapeutic advice. The opinions expressed by the hosts and their guests are not necessarily those of NAMI DuPage. Go to namidupage.org/podcast for links to past episodes, show notes, and to submit a question or topic ideas for a future episode. Until next time, be well.